It's getting closer to 2023 than you think. And a lot of people are starting to want to get their payroll set up for the upcoming year. I claim to have the best do-it-yourself Google Sheet and do-it-yourself Excel files for small business payroll. They're incredible. I don't get complaints. I get a lot of repeat customers out of this product. So I've put it all in a Google Sheet, and in an effort to try to get this out to everyone and have it so easy for you to set up yourself that you hardly need me, I'm going to do a really extensive tutorial about changing dates because I was asked about 2023 stuff tonight. And I thought, well, let's move the dates forward to 2023 completely so that we are sampling 2023 now, even though it's not ready yet, meaning the federal rates are not finalized yet for next year, meaning the publication 15 or 15T is not out of draft status yet. I cannot give you federal rates finalized yet because I haven't published that fully yet. So, but we can change the dates to sample what it would be at 2022 rates because that's what are still in there, which we're going to withhold that until we get guidance, right? So how do you change this stuff? What do you do here? How do you change the size of this file? Let me show you how it all works. So you're in the matrix sheet and you got to figure out what your pay frequency is. And you've got options of weekly, biweekly, semi-monthly, monthly, quarterly. We're going to start with biweekly because I'm in the middle of something and I want to show it to someone in Vermont who has a biweekly pay frequency. So we're in that area. You figure out when your paychecks are, like, meaning what was the first day in 2023 when you have a paycheck that has a date on it normally. Do you hand it out every other Friday or whatever it is? Was that the day? Was it a different day? And then how many days after when was the pay period that was related to this paycheck? That's the other question is how far long ago did that end? And that has to do with how many days after the pay period ends, which apparently was January 1st, you issue the paycheck on Friday, meaning your pay period ends on Sunday and then somebody cuts check 5 days later on Friday. So you put the number of days, if you issued the checks on Saturday, or it'll change when the pay period ended, how many days after it you issue the check. Or, if you want to change, if you issue checks on Thursdays, then you would do this, or Wednesdays, right? Whatever it is. So point is, let's back up for a second. So under the biweekly pay frequency, you have to put how many pay periods are in the year. And there are probably 26. And that's where you would type that right there. If this was a weekly thing, it's probably going to be 52. So you have to type in 52 here, because that's how many pay periods are in your weekly cycle. Let's go back to biweekly. Keep in mind the whole file changes. Everything goes like completely dynamic. And when you do something here, it changes the entire pay period record sheet, which is the master record of all your data, is turning this into whatever. And all your pay periods and everything are just recycling themselves, okay? Your employee info sheet doesn't change. So you've got 10 employee slots on here at this biweekly cycle where you start answering questions about Vermont. There are things you don't need in this file if you're working with Vermont. You can start hiding them because you don't need them. Can't really delete them unless you know what you're doing, but you can just start hiding. You don't care about Arizona, Connecticut, no paid family leave. You can just start hiding this stuff so that you can see there's no local tax to deal with also in Vermont that I'm aware of. Don't think so. So you start to get an easier look at what you're filling out. You're actually not using this column. You can even hide that. It just goes on forever how you can shrink to only have to type in what you need, right? You can get rid of all these ones that you don't use. But we're just wasting time. But basically, you could do anything in here. Now let's go back. So I said you're a biweekly cycle. Well, what's your pay periods? What does everything look like? It can be shown in your cube here. which is the pay period records sheet. It has everything. It goes all the way over to column like LR. Goes a long, long way. Hundreds of columns of data. And you can hide many of them because you only have to use a few of them, right? Like hourly rate, bonus, salary, garnishments, 401k, all these things where you can simulate a paycheck. And most people look by pay period. So they'll be like, I only care about the first pay period. And then you're going to get all your employees that could potentially be on here, right? If you start putting in another employee in here and to whatever, you'll start to see that person shows up in here. Okay. Now, here's the thing though. This is not dynamic in size. You have to manually adjust it. If you decide you want more employees than I set it up for, because I set it up for 10 employees at a bi-weekly pay cycle right now. Watch what happens when we change this to a weekly. Weekly has 52 pay periods. Okay. And as this thing processes, watch what happens. You've changed your pay period record sheet to have longer pay cycles. Here's the problem though. Look at your employee number. It stops at 5. That's because I didn't create enough slots for 10 employees, even though it says 10 employees here. You'll see that, as we start to add employees down here or whatever, watch how they don't appear anymore. It stops at the D person, gets to employee 5 and stops. You know why? Because we shrunk it down. Well, here's the awesome thing about this. You can just Control Shift all the way down to the right and start pulling down. And I don't know, let's see if we got there. It's going to automatically add the employee slots. And it's going to show up in column A what employee number we're at. Oh, look at this. We might have got it perfect. Oh, we just missed it. We were so close. I could have done the math to show you how far down you actually have to go, but I just wanted to reach. You see, I'll go a little too far. And now you'll see we'll go past the last employee slot of 10. We'll go to 11, and then all of a sudden all the errors start, which doesn't matter, but this is just an area we can now clear. We don't need that. That's what happens after the 10th weekly employee, right? All right. So now we've set up this thing for weekly and everything still works just like it did before. Look at all these people still being here. Like you could theoretically expand this out to employee number 50 right here and then have formulas talking to nothing that are all going to be errors and just zero out the errors. You could do that, but I just insert them whenever you need them, right? So we just turned this thing from a biweekly into a weekly in the last few minutes, right? Just messing around, right? Well, get this. So it gets even better. So your pay period's automatically changed here. Like awesome, right? Everything just changed. Like now your names are there. If you put those people's names in here, right? Like it's all there. So get this. So we just changed it to a weekly. Well, what if you're a little more complicated and you've got that frisky semi-monthly one that's always so difficult? All right, well, let's go to semi-monthly. So what happens in semi-monthly? Well, semi-monthlies are usually standardized, okay? So this question becomes really interesting, which is, well, wait a minute, number of days after the end of the pay period the check is paid. Oh, I don't know, like, do we pay on the 5th and the 20th? Like, well, how do I answer that question? When does the pay period end? Like, what period am I actually paying for? Tough question. Well, you start with the first paycheck. And let's say that the paycheck comes out on the 1st, 1/1/23. Somebody gets a paycheck. It's the first time they actually, because here's what really matters when it comes to payroll is what is the first day of the first time the paycheck is in 2023. Not necessarily the days worked, but the first paycheck that was paid in the year, that matters for recording payroll. So let's say it happened on the 1st and it's semi-monthly and we'll say that it is one day after the end of the pay period, meaning that the pay period that went December 1st through, or sorry, December 16th through the 31st was paid on January 1st. Okay, let's see if that works right. Corresponding pay period must have ended on 12/31. That makes sense. First day of recorded work for the year started on. Okay, what is this? Now we're starting to get complicated. So this is not the first day of work for the year. The first day is 12/16. Now this is a black formula here, which means you should not write over that because it's going to break everything else. So what do you need to do at semi-monthly that makes it a little bit more complicated? Is you have to change this. Yeah, you do. And then you got to remember to change it back. Damn. That sucks. So semi-monthly kind of breaks this. Because what it's saying is it's saying B6, but for the purposes of this example, we have to do this. I believe we have to change it manually. That sucks. So that's cell R1, R2. And normally it's going to be this. I don't want to type over this because I want to leave. Oh, man. All right, here's what we're going to do. Here's what we're going to do. We're not going to do what I just did. This is bad coding. This is bad coding. This needs to stay where it is. Here's what we're going to do. So I'm going to say that first day, okay, that this, I think I already have this. If or is weekly or is biweekly, otherwise. Okay, we're going to call it this. Default is below. That's what we're doing. Default is below. This I actually built this for this very reason because I understood this problem. So if you're on semi-monthly, the default is below. It's not right. It needs to be 12/16/22. I already built this in because I remembered this was a problem. So type default below for semi-monthly, I should say. You can type over, yeah, default below. Exactly. Let's say that. So people are starting to understand what I'm doing in the Schuylkill sheet here. So I'm really trying to help you out. So if you're on semi-monthly and this is looking wrong because you're reading all of these like you're supposed to, that's how you change it. How many pay periods are in this semi-monthly year? They usually have 24 because it's 12 times 2. All right. Now let's go look at the pay period record sheet. We have a bunch of errors starting at the bottom. That's because we just shrunk our data set because we went from a weekly to a semi-monthly. We really shrunk our pay periods. So there's a ton of this stuff that we can delete. These pay periods are looking good. They're alternating. This is wrong. This needs to be 115. And this needs to be not 12/31. So let's think about this for a second. So if you're on semi-monthly, it's not right. If you're on semi-monthly, you got to go into the semi-monthly thing right here. I know what's going on. So there's a semi-monthly setup somewhere. Where is it? Yeah, it's right here. So it wants to start you here. Darn. Darn. That's complicated. That stinks. Stinks. It makes me want to start with 2020. Oh, man. Gosh, that stinks. So you actually have to change this under semi-monthly. And I'm sorry that you have to do more when you're on a semi-monthly pay cycle, but you have to. So the first one ended actually on, yeah. Yeah, so here's what you do. You actually have to do this. Because it was the end of 2022 was the first period. See how complicated it is when you have different pay periods? The semi-monthly one is screwy. Sorry, but you have to do that. If your pay period started like and you do it that way. Some people don't do it that way, but if you do it that way, that's how you have to do it. And this is dragging on, but I have to explain it for everybody. So we have done it, and I think it works now. We're going to look at the pay period record. So you want your dates, obviously, to look the way you want them to look, meaning the pay period ended here and the paycheck was the next day, right? If this is the way you do it. If it's not the way you do it, you got to change stuff. So semi-monthly is funky. It's really funky, but it does work right now. Yep. And okay, so that's semi-monthly. How about monthly? How funky is monthly? Let's say we got the same issue where we're paying at the very beginning of the first day of the month, and it's for the entire previous month. First day of recorded work for the year would be 12/1/2022 because it's paying from the 1st of December, paying this new paycheck in 2023. There are 12 in the year. What does this look like? It's screwed up again here. And that is because it doesn't predict that you're starting in December. So I'm gonna adjust this, but you can see how complicated it is based on when your pay period actually starts. So be this. And yeah, you see you have to bring this down one. And this becomes 12/31/22. Gosh, you could potentially have the same problem in quarterly also. And now it will be correct. See, now it's right. And ends on 11/30. So it involves this additional step if you're doing semi-monthly or monthly or quarterly for that matter, is you have to set your pay period start correct. And unfortunately, that is a manual process with those. But the other ones, quarterly, I guess is going to be okay. There are 4 of those. Let's see what that looks like. Oh gosh, same problem in that scenario. Oh my goodness. Yeah, I guess you have to do it that way though. So, I mean, you have to adjust it and figure out how you do it. Right? Like, this is the process of doing that. 12/31/22. Whenever you end this pay period, whenever it's paid, whenever you end it, that is how you fix that. And you have your employees stacked, and this is how you adjust it for anything, right? Any pay period frequency and any date. That's kind of the troubleshooting. You even have an annual one. What does that look like? Yep, teach employee, but all the pay periods are screwed up. No, they're not. They're working. That's funny. Yes, so see how cool that is? Like it really just dynamically changes on the fly. Now, most people are weekly or bi-weekly. As you can see, there's that complication with semi-monthly and monthly that we have to go through that extra step to get it to perfectly align with your pay cycle. But other than that, this works. This works. So that's basically the tutorial on how you change dates in this file and get it to work with however your business is structured. There are different videos I'm going to do about different areas of this file, like the pay period record sheet to show you what you can hide and what you can change. When I'll do one with the daily entry sheet to show you all the different ways you can enter daily compensation for different types of businesses. You can do time in, time out. You can import stuff into this if you have it coming from a different data source where there are records, the time clock records, there's all kinds of stuff you can do with this, and you can get into that and the employee sheet in a different video. But that is the really in-depth video about how to change this to any single pay period cycle and pay date and how to get it right and how to adjust your data set for different sizes and numbers of employees, depending on whatever your pay period is and your number of employees that you want are. because this is how you're going to get them. And you want to match all your sheets, like how many employees you have in your employee sheet. You want to also match that to how many you want to have in your pay period record sheet and how many you want to have on your 941 report sheet, 10 of them. So you have to change them in all those places whenever you want to make a substantial change to the number of employees that this can hold. But that may be for an Excel version, which will be more powerful because this will slow you down. The more you try to throw like 100 employees in here, it's not going to work. It's going to be way too slow, doing too much stuff. So we'll talk about that in the future. But that was a tutorial. Good luck. May all your pay cycles be easy to set up. That's what payroll and Google Sheets and payroll and Excel are for. All right. Good luck. Payroll's easy. Make it so.